Yeah, Esclav. Happening.
What inspires someone to be great? Is it talent, timing, or is it simply survival? Having no other choice but to turn pain into something that lasts. Sometimes greatness doesn't come from a big moment. Sometimes it starts in a church pew, in a barber shop with a beat up PC, in a room with one mic and zero expectations. This episode is about that kind of greatness, the kind that's built from the ground up. Today we hear from Falco. You might know him as one of the voices of Esclav. But long before that, he was a kid caught between church music and street life, between wanting to fit in and needing to stand out. This is a story of how music became his way out and how a crew of misfits became his creative lifeline. Welcome to Esclav Unmastered. So Falco didn't find music. It was already in his bloodline. His childhood was a melody of family, faith, and rhythm.
So, growing up, I loved music and it was part of my life. Kind of something I didn't have a choice in. My mom sang at church. My grandmother sang at church. My grandfather had a serious baritone voice that you could hear from the middle of the church, harmonizing with the choir.
Which is crazy.
My uncle played the piano at church. My other uncle played bass. I have an uncle who played the trumpet. And my family was just music. Growing up, I was kind of torn apart between wanting to be like my friends in St. Joseph and wanting to be the musician that I am. It was always a tumultuous situation because I had friends who didn't really think I was capable, to be honest. I had friends who, I can probably call them haters now. I used to tell fellas like, yo, I want to be a rapper, or I want to be a producer, or I want to be that engineer. I want to be like Fox, or I want to be like Dr. Dre. People would laugh. But eventually, I came across Fruity Loops.
And sometimes it only takes one bet, one bootleg program, and one computer in a barbershop to spark a whole movement.
My boy Flockman had a barbershop and he had a computer in the barbershop and he installed Fruity Loops. And he and another partner of mine called Pato from Jawbreakers decided to make a bet with me that I can't make Bouyon. It was just a test. Them and tell me I can't make Bouyon, and I decided no one tells me I cannot do anything. So I actually made my first Bouyon beat on Flockman computer. I made a bunch of them, in fact. Because when I first started, I got excited. I was like,
Oh, this is cool. I like this. I can do this.
and from since then, when I made a few beats, couple of my boys from my village, like Pato, Papa Joe, and Toggler, Neol, them guys decided like, yo, let's do something for real. And we came together and created Jawbreakers. And at the time, we didn't have much equipment, so we actually put together computers, like we took spare parts from other computers, from older computers, and put together a computer just to make our music. And that was rough because we used to use the telephone operator headset as headphones and mic at the same time because it had that type of setup. We used to connect directly through the computer's sound card and record directly into Nuendo, which was, it was stress back then. But eventually when I got the hang of it, my boy Papa Joe from Jawbreakers kind of made a makeshift studio at his house. So we used to go over there and try and record stuff. Eventually, in 2005, we made our first album. It came out Carnival 2006.
And just after family loss came an unexpected connection, one that would change Falco's direction forever.
Shortly after that, my aunt died and we had a funeral for her, of course, like everybody else does. And during the funeral, my cousin Carol introduced me to another family member who was Puski. Now, meeting Puski, my first impression was very different because Puski articulated himself well. We spoke very ghetto in St. Joseph. And I wasn't raised to speak like St. Joseph people. My grandmother was very difficult with the English language. We weren't allowed to speak colloquially just like that. We were supposed to speak proper. When I met Puski, he spoke proper, even though, in between time, you'll get the kicks now and then. But then I saw a proper person and a different reflection of myself, a musician, but a more serious person. At the time, I thought I was just, playing around with that music thing. It was something to occupy my time, to get me off of the streets. And at the time, I also had a lot of beef, street problems with people in St. Joseph, people in Salisbury. And when I got too much problems in the streets was when I decided to move by Puski because my mom recommended that.
Yo, you need to do something to get yourself out of those problems that you're facing.
So I hit Puski up and we started doing our thing.
Upgrading the tools was only part of the journey. The real transformation came from watching someone work.
Puski already had a better setup, a way better setup. Puski already had Pro Tools. He had a 002 rack that went into Pro Tools. He had a Samson C1 that went superbly well with my voice, I thought, because I went from headset to, to a studio mic, a proper studio mic. And I was so impressed at Puski's work ethic in the studio, like when he's being creative, that I was just drawn to do exactly the same thing. So I started trying to invest a lot of my time into the creative process, trying to make beats whenever I get the spare time. When Puski not making beats, I would make beats. And then if he had beats already that was there, then I would just write and try and sing to them.
And every crew has a spark, a personality that lights up the whole room. For Esclav, that spark was Coco Killer.
Eventually, I met Coco Killer, and that's where a lot of the creativity from all of us came out, because Coco Killer is special. Then we met up with Median, DJ Median. We did a few songs, and we released our first project under the moniker Esclav, which is very funny because Coco Killer was the inventor of the Esclav thing. Killer would come to the studio and see me in an outfit, see me in clothes today, and come back tomorrow and see me in the same clothes, sit down in the same chair, still making music, and he would tell me, yeah.
He's an esclav.
At the time, I wasn't really thinking. That was going to stick, but then, yeah.
What we in esclav?
With Killer freestyling, Median's marketing skills, and Puski producing, Falco found himself surrounded by talent that challenged and sharpened him.
We got to kicking a lot, making a lot of music, producing a lot of stuff, recording a lot. And I was inspired to become more of a producer, just having more artists around me.
In Jawbreakers, Falco had to do it all. But Esclav gave him the room to grow into something more.
Back in my Jawbreaker era, I had to write for some of the guys. I had to help them with their writing if they were even trying to write. Or sometimes I would just not let you write and just write for you and tell you how to sing it word for word. And that got tiring. But having Killer who would just freestyle his own verse off the top of his head, that was a welcoming feeling. That was an easier feeling. It gave me more time to be creative in producing. Also having Median there as well. Median would also add to the creative process with his ideas. Puski is an extremely talented fella because Puski can sing, Puski can drum, Puski can write, Puski can produce, and also understands music in general. So having that type of team around me pushed me to be more of a producer than just being just an artist, because back then I really wanted to just be the artist, but then eventually falling in love with being behind the production aspect of it I became more of a producer than just an artist.
The name might have started off as a joke, but the work was real. Long nights, shared vision, and creative risks became the heartbeat of Esclav.
Esclav's formation was kind of organic, and it was very easy considering the fact that we was always around each other most of the time. I stayed in the studio. Killer would always come. Killer was just right there, like a stone throw away. Killer would always come through in the studio, median whenever he had the time. Pusky would come around, make a beat, dig out. Sometimes Pusky would come home from lunch, on his lunch break, just to make a beat or to finish an idea he started early in the morning. And that type of drive was exciting. That type of drive was inspiring, to say the least. And my early role in Esclav was lead singer and producer, which was not that different from Jawbreakers, because I still was lead singer and producer. But at that time, I was producing 100% of the beats, and with Pusky.
I didn't have to do that much.
From Esclav's first album, majority of the beats on there was me just being an artist. Just let Pusky do the beat work, let Pusky do the recording work, the mixing work and all of that. It was a lot more easier. I remember like the style that we used to use recording, like I would record a song and then somewhere later on, Pusky might just pass in that file and just add it while the song finish at the end. It was exciting, it was creative, so creative. All the interludes and all of those things were so creative to me, in my personal opinion, my humble opinion. They were so creative that I enjoyed being an esclav. It made being a slave easy.
For Falco, the music was never about the money. It was about making something that mattered and being part of something bigger than himself.
Initially, I didn't care making any money doing music. I didn't care about much. To be honest, I was so much of an esclav, I honestly didn't care about much. If we made money, we made money. If we didn't, I didn't care. It was going to work out some way, somehow. To be honest, these guys have impacted my mindset on a general level, because I've been an esclav since then. I still work in studio 100% of the time since then. I always reflect to my memories of being an esclav. Whenever I feel down, I tend to remind myself, my brother, you're an esclav, like you have to kind of keep going. And that's another thing. When I started my journey with Esclav, I didn't think it was going to end, and apparently it didn't.
Apparently it didn't.
Because we're still here. I'm still making music, still producing. And it's because of man like Pusky and Fox that were early inspiration, considering where we're from. And having very little, but them man showed me how to use little to make big things. And I appreciate them for that.
One could say, looking back, the choice to move in with Pusky was more than just survival. It was salvation. And in those studio sessions, something real happened, a shift, a rebirth, and thank God it did.
Another thing, if I didn't meet Pusky, I was probably more likely to go to jail. In retrospect, I probably would have ended up in jail.
Yeah.
Music changed a lot for my life. Having to tell my son my past, explaining to my family.
My past.
I'll give the Almighty Creator thanks for music and for man like Pusky and Coco Killer and Fox and Melchour in my life. Enough respect.
Falco's story is a reminder that sometimes you don't get to choose the timing, the name, or even the crew. But when the right people come around and you say yes, it can change everything. Thanks for listening to Esclav Unmastered. If this episode moved you, send it to someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to get into the studio, change your path, or find your people. We'll be back soon with another chapter. Until then, keep it loud, keep it rooted, and keep it real.